In the summer of 1952, beneath the scorching Roman sun, a moment of pure cinematic magic was about to unfold, or nearly disappear forever. A single improvised gag by Gregory Peck would create one of cinema's most beloved scenes, but studio executives had other plans. They wanted it gone. The battle lines were drawn. Corporate logic versus artistic intuition. Profit versus poetry. Little did anyone know that this throwaway moment, dismissed as trivial by suits in boardrooms, would become the beating heart of a timeless masterpiece. The Bocca della Verita, the mouth of truth, had been watching over Rome for over 1,000 years, its hollow stone eyes bearing witness to emperors and peasants alike. Legend whispered that liars who dared place their hand within its gaping maw would lose it forever, devoured by ancient justice. But in 1952, this weathered relic was about to become something else entirely. The unlikely star of Hollywood's most enchanting love story. When William Wyler first laid eyes on the ancient sculpture, nestled in the portico of Santa Maria in Cosmedin, he felt something stir within him. A director's intuition that this wasn't just another Roman landmark to check off his location list. The mouth seemed to beckon, promising secrets, demanding stories. Wyler had built his reputation on finding the extraordinary in the ordinary, transforming simple moments into cinematic gold. But even he couldn't have predicted that this ancient stone face would become the catalyst for one of cinema's most spontaneous and genuine moments. The film's location scout had discovered the mouth of truth almost by accident, wandering through Rome's quieter neighborhoods in search of authentic backdrops. When he reported back to Wyler, describing the legend and the eerie presence of the sculpture, the director's eyes lit up with possibility. Here was something real, something untouched by Hollywood's artificial magic, a piece of genuine Roman mystique that could ground their fairy tale princess story in authentic wonder. Yet the studio executives, viewing the location through their cold calculus of time and money, saw only an unnecessary detour. Every scene shot meant more film stock, more crew hours, more money bleeding from their carefully calculated budget. They questioned the relevance, the necessity, the commercial value of including what seemed like tourist attraction footage in their romantic comedy. Little did they know they were about to wage war over what become the film's most treasured sequence. As the Roman summer heated up and production schedules tightened, the mouth of truth waited patiently, as it had for centuries, ready to play its part in a story that would echo through film history. William Wyler was no stranger to fighting for his artistic vision. The man who had already helmed masterpieces like The Best Years of Our Lives and Mrs. Miniver understood that great cinema was built on moments, those fleeting instances of human truth that studios rarely understood until they saw the box office receipts. But Roman Holiday was different. This wasn't just another prestige picture. It was a delicate balance between fairy tale romance and authentic human connection. The pressure from Paramount's executives had been mounting since day one. Every cable from Hollywood to Rome carried the same message. Stay on budget, stay on schedule, and cut anything that doesn't directly serve the central narrative. In their minds, the mouth of truth scene was expendable, a tourist attraction interlude that added nothing to the love story between Princess Anne and Joe Bradley. They couldn't see what Wyler saw, the perfect metaphor for truth and deception that lay at the heart of their story. Trust me on this one, Wyler had pleaded during one particularly heated transatlantic phone call with studio head Frank Freeman. The director's reputation bought him some latitude, but not unlimited goodwill. Every scene had to justify its existence, and a playful moment at an ancient Roman monument seemed frivolous to executives focused on the bottom line. They viewed filmmaking as a business of measurable components: star power plus director pedigree plus production value equals profit. They had no equation for magic. Wyler knew that his stars Gregory Peck and the untested Audrey Hepburn needed moments to breathe, to be playful, to reveal the genuine chemistry that would make their impossible romance believable. The film was already walking a tightrope, a story about a princess who abandons her royal duties for a day of freedom with an American. Reporter required audiences to buy into the fantasy completely. One false note, one moment where the artifice showed, and the entire delicate construction would collapse. The director had seen something in the way Peck and Hepburn interacted during their rehearsals. A natural ease, a genuine affection that transcended their scripted dialogue. He needed the scene that would capture that authentic connection, strip away the layers of performance, and reveal the real people beneath the characters. The Mouth of Truth, with its legend of revealing liars, seemed like the perfect setting for such a moment of truth. Behind Gregory Peck's distinguished facade lay the soul of a natural performer who had learned to find truth in spontaneity. As he wandered through Rome during those sweltering summer days of filming, absorbing the city's ancient rhythms and timeless mysteries, an idea began to take shape, borrowed from an unlikely source that would have surprised his legion of serious dramatic film fans. The inspiration came from Red Skelton, the rubber-faced comedian whose television variety show was conquering America's living rooms every Tuesday night. Peck had watched Skelton perform a simple but effective gag during one of his vaudeville-inspired sketches, the classic hand-caught-in-something bit that had been making audiences laugh since the days of silent comedy. It was physical comedy, at its purest, requiring nothing more than perfect timing and the element of surprise. But Peck saw deeper possibilities in this simple gag. Here was a chance to strip away the formal barriers between himself and his co-star, to create a moment of genuine human connection that no amount of scripted dialogue could achieve. Audrey Hepburn, despite her natural grace and charm, was still finding her footing as a leading lady. She was precise, professional, perhaps a bit too careful in their scenes together. Peck sensed that she needed permission to be surprised, to react instinctively rather than perform. The legend of the Mouth of Truth provided the perfect setup. According to ancient Roman belief, anyone who placed their hand in the sculpture's mouth while telling a lie would have it bitten off. It was a test of honesty, a moment of vulnerability disguised as playful superstition. For Joe Bradley, the character Peck was portraying, it represented something deeper. Here was a man who had built his career on lies, pretending to be just a friend to a princess, while secretly planning to exploit her story for his newspaper. The irony was perfect. As filming approached the Mouth of Truth sequence, Peck made a decision that would change cinema history. He would keep his plan secret from everyone except William Wyler, creating a moment of authentic surprise that the cameras could capture forever. It was a risky move. Improvisation was not encouraged on big-budget Hollywood productions, where every moment was calculated and controlled. But Peck understood that some of cinema's greatest moments came from happy accidents, from the collision between careful preparation and spontaneous inspiration. The stage was set for magic. Though the studio executives remained oblivious to the cinematic gold, it was about to be mined from their unnecessary Roman detour. The pairing of Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn in Ramon Holiday was far from inevitable. In fact, it was born from a series of rejections, near misses, and last-minute decisions that would have drastically altered film history. The chemistry that would captivate audiences worldwide for generations almost never existed at all, and the scene at the Mouth of Truth became the perfect crucible where their partnership would be tested and proven. Paramount's original vision for Princess Anne bore little resemblance to the luminous young woman who would eventually inhabit the role. Elizabeth Taylor had been their first choice, followed by a parade of established stars who either couldn't commit to the Roman location shoot or demanded fees that would have bankrupted the production. William Wyler had been searching for something different, not just beauty and talent, but a quality of innocence and authenticity that couldn't be manufactured in Hollywood's star system. When Audrey Hepburn walked into her screen test, fresh from her Broadway triumph, Gigi, she carried with her an otherworldly combination of sophistication and vulnerability that left everyone in the room speechless. But screen tests were artificial constructs, carefully lit meticulously, prepared moments that bore little resemblance to the spontaneous magic needed for great cinema. Wyler needed to see how she would react under pressure, how she would handle the unexpected, how she would play off her leading man in moments of unguarded authenticity. Gregory Peck, meanwhile, was carrying his own emotional baggage to the Roman set. His marriage was disintegrating, his personal life in turmoil, and he was struggling to find the lightness and romantic playfulness that the role of Joe Bradley demanded. The character required a man who could be both cynical and charming, world-weary and boyishly playful. Peck's natural gravitas and dramatic intensity needed to be tempered with warmth and humor. Their early scenes together had been competent, but not magical. They looked good together, certainly, Peck's masculine strength providing the perfect counterpoint to Hepburn's delicate femininity. But looking good on camera was not enough. The story demanded that audiences believe in their impossible romance, accept that a princess would abandon her royal duties for this man, understand that he would sacrifice his career-making story to protect her happiness. The Mouth of Truth scene would become the moment where their professional partnership transformed into something deeper and more genuine. Hidden from studio interference and removed from the artificial constraints of the soundstage, they would discover the natural rhythm and authentic chemistry that would make their love story immortal. The Bocadella, Farida held secrets far older than Hollywood's newest fairy tale. For over 15 centuries, this enigmatic stone face had served as judge and jury for those brave or foolish enough to test their honesty against its ancient power. Medieval Romans had brought their most solemn oaths to this weathered sentinel, believing that divine justice flowed through its hollow mouth. Now, in the summer of 1952, it was about to witness a different kind of truth, the birth of cinema magic through spontaneous human connection. The legend itself was beautifully simple and terrifyingly absolute. Those who placed their hand within the sculpture's gaping maw while speaking falsehoods would feel the stone teeth snap shut, severing their hand as punishment for their dishonesty. It was justice without appeal, truth without mercy. But for every tale of swift retribution, there were whispered stories of miraculous reprieve, honest souls who emerged unscathed, their integrity confirmed by ancient wisdom. William Wyler understood that legends like this one persisted for a reason. They spoke to fundamental human fears and desires, the longing to distinguish truth from lies, the terror of being judged and found wanting, the secret hope that honesty would be rewarded and deception punished. In a film about a princess who lies about her identity and a reporter who conceals his profession, the Mouth of Truth represented the moral center of their story, the place where pretense would give way to authentic feeling. The location itself added layers of meaning that no studio set could have provided. Santa Maria in Cosmedin, the ancient church that housed the sculpture, stood in one of Rome's oldest neighborhoods, where early Christian martyrs had walked and emperors had processed. The very stones seemed to whisper with history, creating an atmosphere of gravitas and mystery that would ground the film's romantic fantasy in something deeper and more resonant. Local Romans watched with amused curiosity as the Hollywood production descended upon their sacred site. They had seen countless tourists pose nervously with their hands in the mouth, giggling at the ancient superstition, while secretly harboring just enough belief to make their hearts race. But this was different. These foreigners were preparing to capture something permanent, to transform their local legend into global mythology. As the crew prepared their cameras and adjusted their lighting, the Mouth of Truth waited with the patience of eons. ready to play its part in a story that would outlast the very stars it was about to consecrate. Sin, the carefully controlled world of 1950s Hollywood filmmaking. Every gesture was choreographed, every line reading refined through countless rehearsals, until spontaneity was surgically removed from the performance. William Wyler, despite his reputation for perfectionism and multiple takes, understood that some moments required a different approach, the delicate balance between preparation and surprise that could yield pure cinematic gold. The script for the Mouth of Truth sequence was deceptively simple. Princess Anne and Joe Bradley, accompanied by photographer Irving Radovich, would visit the famous landmark as part of their carefree day exploring Rome. Joe would playfully test the legend, placing his hand in the mouth while making exaggerated proclamations about his honesty. Anne would watch nervously, half believing in the ancient superstition. It was a moment designed to reveal character through action, showing Joe's irreverent humor and Anne's endearing mixture of sophistication and childlike wonder. But Gregory Peck had been harboring his secret plan for days, waiting for the perfect moment to spring his borrowed bit of comedy gold. He had studied Red Skelton's timing, practiced the subtle mechanics of concealing his hand within his sleeve, rehearsed the precise moment when he would reveal his apparently severed limb. The gag required split-second coordination and absolute commitment. Any hesitation or visible preparation would destroy the illusion. The brilliant cruelty of Peck's decision lay in his choice to keep Audrey Hepburn completely in the dark. He confided only in William Wyler, explaining his plan in hushed tones just before the cameras were scheduled to roll. The director's eyes lit up with understanding and approval. Here was an opportunity to capture something unrehearsed and genuine, to document Hepburn's authentic reaction rather than her carefully crafted performance. Hepburn approached the scene with her characteristic professionalism, running through her blocking and dialogue with the same meticulous attention to detail that had made her the toast of Broadway. She knew her marks, understood her character's emotional journey through the sequence, and was prepared to deliver another polished piece of screen acting. What she wasn't prepared for was to become the unwitting subject of a masterclass in cinematic spontaneity. The crew watched with barely contained anticipation as Wyler called for quiet on the set. They had been sworn to secrecy about Peck's planned surprise, creating an atmosphere of electric expectation that seemed to charge the Roman air itself. History was about to be made, though only a few people on the set understood the magnitude of the moment they were about to witness. 3,000 miles away from the sun-drenched Roman streets, Paramount Pictures executives were having nightmares about runaway budgets and meaningless footage. Every day of overseas production meant hemorrhaging money that could have been saved by shooting on Hollywood backlots with painted backdrops and artificial Roman columns. The reports filtering back from Rome described beautiful cinematography and charming performances, but also spoke of scenes that seemed tangential to the central love story. The Mouth of Truth sequence had become a particular source of anxiety for studio head Frank Freeman and his lieutenants. They had already reluctantly approved location shooting at the Spanish Steps, the Trevi Fountain, and the Colosseum, iconic Roman landmarks that would provide undeniable production value and tourist appeal. But a scene at some obscure medieval church, featuring a piece of ancient sculpture that most Americans had never heard of, seemed like an expensive indulgence in William Wyler's artistic pretensions. "Cut it," came the order in a terse telegram that arrived at the production offices just hours before the Mouth of Truth sequence was scheduled to film. Focus on the relationship. Lose the tourist attractions. The message was clear. Paramount wanted a love story, not a travel documentary. Every minute of screen time needed to advance the romance between Princess Anne and Joe Bradley or risked being left on the cutting room floor. Wyler read the telegram with the weary resignation of a director who had fought similar battles throughout his career. Studios understood commerce, but rarely comprehended the alchemy that transformed simple scenes into memorable moments. They could quantify the cost of film stock and crew overtime, but they had no methodology for measuring magic. The director knew that some of cinema's most beloved sequences had initially been dismissed as unnecessary by executives, who saw only expenses rather than opportunities.